I was sent away when I was still a baby. My birth family was once one of the richest families in the next village. The family that raised me was poor. So poor that once, before my mother could cook lunch, she had to borrow a cup of rice from a neighbor. But that poor family gave me something my rich birth family never gave me. They gave me a home.
Today I am standing outside my oldest brother's furniture workshop. This is where he earns his living. It is also part of where I grew up. My brother is renovating his new home nearby. Watching him and my father working for this home makes me think about how my own home was built. Not the building itself, but the people around me.
出发！走，去我哥那边。
My roommate and I are riding my mother's electric bike to see how the renovation is going.
空调打开。到了。
The house is still unfinished. The walls are still rough. The rooms are still empty. There is dust everywhere on the floor. For now, it does not really look like a home yet. But my brother and his family have already started imagining their life here. Outside the window, I can see vegetable gardens and other village houses. Many families here slowly improve their homes. After saving enough money, my brother is also trying to take part in the renovation, as much as he can. The workers are laying tiles, and my brother is carrying bricks by himself. He does what he can by himself, just to save a little labor cost. This is very normal in my family. If something can be done by hand, someone in the family will usually try to do it. My oldest brother is 10 years older than me. When my parents went to work in the fields, he was often the one taking care of me. He was still young himself. But in my childhood, he was already someone I could depend on. Now, I am watching him renovate a new home for his own family. Things are different now. But he is still the person who carries responsibility quietly without saying much about it. There are 3 bedrooms upstairs. There is also a very large balcony.
我们到时候可以来这里烧烤。
好。
离得很近。
Maybe one day, on a summer evening, we will sit there together.
这阳台好大。
My father is here too. He is helping remove the old cement base. The work is loud and physically tiring. He is no longer young. But saving money still matters to a family like ours. So he helps wherever he can. My father rarely explains his feelings.
12点了，开始午休了，估计。
在这个。
It is noon now. The workers are leaving for lunch. I sit for a while with my father. The house is still dusty. The renovation is not finished yet. But sitting together like this already makes this place feel a little more like home. My father is worried that my mother's electric bike is not easy for my roommate and me to ride. So he gives us the key to his newer electric bike. He does not make it sound important. He just wants us to ride something safer and easier. This is how I usually feel his care. Not through long conversations, but through practical, little things that make the day a little easier.
这么大的厨房啊？
然后水龙头在这里吗？我也身高是可以，我给他调的。
My sister-in-law takes us to see the kitchen she designed. It is still unfinished. But this is one of the most important parts of the house for her. When I was a child, I usually only noticed the food after it appeared on the table. I did not think about who bought it, prepared it, or stood beside the stove to cook it. Now, I understand these things differently. After that, we returned to my brother's furniture workshop to rest. My roommate really likes my father's new electric bike. She thinks it is smart and easy to ride.
我爸的新车。
In the middle of such a heavy story, this is a light little moment.
拉回浙江。
你爸？
哎，我爸，爸爸就在家哎。
没听到。太好笑了。
Maybe real life is always like this. Even when the past is complicated, the present can still have simple moments. A hot afternoon, a new electric bike, a friend laughing about something small. The weather is very hot today, so my brother and my sister-in-law are having plain rice porridge here. We sit with them for a while everyone is resting. The dogs stay nearby too. This is a very simple meal.
这狗都已经叼走了，它还在找。
我到哪去了？它在吃空气吗？
知道了，
假装在吃的。
给它吃。
But in this place, seeing such a simple meal makes me think of my childhood again. Because this furniture workshop is not only where my brother works, it is also one of the places where I lived when I was young. The family I was born into had money. The family that raised me sometimes had very little. I still remember that sometimes, before my mother could cook lunch, she had to borrow a cup of rice from a neighbor. That little bit of rice was just enough to cook the next meal. That memory has stayed with me. But when I think about my childhood, I do not only remember poverty. I also remember how they protected me from many of life's difficulties. I did not do much farm work when I was little. I also did not carry many household responsibilities. Not because life was easy, but because my parents and my brothers took on those difficulties before they reached me. My family could not give me a comfortable childhood, but they tried their best to give me a safe one. My birth mother and the mother who raised me are sisters. The mother who raised me is the older sister. My birth mother is the younger one. So I was not sent to a family with no blood connection at all. But I did grow up in another home, and I lived a very different life. My birth parents wanted a son at that time, so not long after I was born, I was given to my aunt's family, the family that later raised me. I have known this since I was little. It was never deliberately hidden from me. But knowing the fact as a child is different from truly understanding it as an adult. Seeing rice today reminds me again of the cup of rice my mother once borrowed from a neighbor. Now, things are different. But people in my family seem to have never forgotten the habit of saving whatever can be saved. After the lunch break, the furniture workshop starts working again. The machines start running again. The air is filled with the sounds of cutting and moving things. This is where my brother has worked for many years. When I was young, I did not understand where the family's money came from. I only knew that the adults were always busy. Now I finally understand that much of our daily life was supported by work like this. Dusty work, repetitive work, work that may not look important from the outside. My brother did not only take care of me when I was little. Even after I grew up and could take care of myself, his work still continued to support his family. My relationship with my birth parents has always been distant. We did not share daily life together. My birth father is no longer part of our everyday life. My birth mother now has an orchard. She grows fruit and raises chickens. I also have a biological sister, who is 1 year older than me. She is married and has 2 sons. We did not grow up under the same roof. But now we talk on WeChat almost every day. This relationship is different from the relationship I have with the brothers who raised me. I do not think every family relationship has to take the same shape. Some relationships are connected by blood. Others are slowly built through years of meals, work, arguments, and care. Now, my income is a little higher than some members of my family. So I give my parents money for living expenses regularly. This renovation was also my suggestion. I also supported part of the cost. Not because I am rich. I just hope the people who once protected me can now live a little more comfortably. When I was little, they stood between me and many difficulties in life. Now that I have grown up, I can finally stand a little closer to them. I cannot change how my story began. I also cannot fully repay everything they once gave me. But I can help repair a house. I can help make the rooms a little brighter. I can help make the kitchen a little better. These are very practical things. But in my family, many feelings that cannot be said out loud are often expressed through these practical things.
后面还要再去让人家再上色。
Later, I go to the village where my birth family lives. My biological sister is there too. Together, we push my grandfather's wheelchair and take him out for a walk. This is another part of my family story. When I was in middle school, I lived with my biological grandparents for a while. Their home was closer to my school, so it was more convenient for me to study there. It did not mean I had returned to my birth family. It was just an arrangement that made going to school easier. My grandmother has passed away. My grandfather used to serve in the Air Force. Now, he is old and needs a wheelchair. Every time I come home, I try to visit him. My sister and I slowly push his wheelchair forward. The road is quiet. My grandfather belongs to the family I was born into. He belongs to the side that gave me life. But the feeling of home came from another side. From the people who fed me. From the people who worried about me. From the people who carried everything for me when I was too young to understand the weight of life. I was sent away when I was still a baby. But I was not raised without love. Maybe home is not only where life begins. Maybe home is also the place where someone is willing to keep you and hold you. It is where someone carries the things you cannot carry when you are still too young to face life. It is where a family that is not wealthy gives everything they have to a child. And when that child grows up, she comes back. Not to explain everything that happened in the past. Not to change what has already happened. But to stand beside the people who once stood in front of her to protect her.